The Celtics are back on the winning side of things, and now they're about to face the Portland Trail Blazers. We're going to discuss more on this episode of Green with Envy. Yeah, what's good, everybody? I'm joined by Jeremy Brener. Is that right? Is that if I pronounced that right, Jeremy?
That's right. That's
Yep.
right.
From SB Nation and from Sports Illustrated, covers the Blazers, covers the Magic. I thought, who better to discuss some Trailblazers basketball than somebody that's editing one of the bigger Trailblazers sites out there. So thank you for joining me, man. I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here.
So you got two ex-Celtics on this team. I think we need to start there, right? At least one of them you haven't really got to see much of. Rob Williams went over same issues he had in Boston, right knees, back. Get a few good games out of him, things start to look good, starts flashing a bit of mid-range, and then he's out for the season. But then you also have reigning sixth man of the year, Malcolm Brogdon. How's that been for you, in just in terms of how's Brogdon been? Is he coming off the bench to most of the time? Like, how's that whole ecosystem working with him?
Yeah, so Malcolm's provided like this calming veteran presence for the Blazers. The team is pretty brand new. I mean, to each other, some to the league, some to the team. So like I think it was last night against Toronto, they started two rookies. Tumani Camara is a second round pick, was acquired in the Damian Lillard trade. They got Chris Murray as well. They've often started Duop Reith, who's also a rookie, 27-year-old rookie from Australia. So there's been a lot of rookies and a lot of new players to each other on this roster. And Malcolm Brogdon, when he's been healthy, has been kind of a someone that can set the table for the offense. And while the Blazers haven't necessarily had the strongest offense this season, the Blazers had several opportunities to trade him at the deadline, and they chose not to. And I think a big reason for that is because they view his value with being a veteran and leading the way with Scoot Henderson, with Anthony Simons, those young guards that they really want to build around moving forward. So they see the value with Brogdon in that. And, even though he hasn't been playing as much as of late, he's been dealing with an injury, but he's been very valuable to the Blazers overall as just a good human.
Brogdon was he was dope when he was with the Celtics. I can't lie. It used to frustrate me how little he would pass to the rolling big. Like, that's always like a bugbearer for me. Same with Dennis Schroeder was the same as well. But he was reliable. Hit his shots, super professional. We used to call him Brobama because of his voice. Sounds like Barack Obama. Outside of him, though, like, one of the questions I've kind of been leaning towards is, you have this Dame and CJ kind of like era, right? Two high level guards really struggle to build around them, struggle to find consistent success at the highest level in terms of just consistent deep playoff runs. Now you're kind of rebuilding around two new high level guards. Where do you think the front office has learned from their mistakes? Are they going to try and bring in like some wings that they can help build into there? How are you feeling about the overall like youth development on this team, or is everything just geared towards two high level guards again, and we'll just kind of put the pieces in as we go?
Yeah, so the Dame CJ era was really the responsibility of Neil Olshey when he was the general manager in Portland. And, Neil Olshey had those troubling allegations against him, and it ultimately led, to his dismissal. And then Joe Cronin comes in. So it's not necessarily, while Joe Cronin was part of the team when Olshey was around, it's not quite the same front office now. So they kept Dame as long as they possibly could. They really didn't want to trade Dame. It kind of got to a point where they really had nowhere else to go. They tried to build around him with Jeremy Grant. They tried to, find ways to really get some talent around him, but it just never really materialized. And, there's several reasons behind that, but that's kind of behind the Blazers now. Once they traded Dame, it was kind of okay, let's see what we've got. They had the number 3 pick they chose they chose Scoot Henderson as the obvious third pick. Like in this draft this past year, there really wasn't, like, it was a very clear Wemby, Brandon Miller, and Scoot. They weren't too sure whether Charlotte was going to take Scoot or Brandon Miller. And when they took Brandon Miller, it made Scoot Henderson a lot easier to make that choice. So they had him. Anthony Simons has been the best player on the team, for the past couple of years beyond Damian Lillard and Jeremy Grant. So he's been kind of a natural fit there, and he's taken a major step this season with Dame not on the team. And, he's been their lead guard. He's their best shooter, possibly. And he's been he's their best player right now. I would confidently say Anthony Simons is their best player today. And so you're going to play your best player. And, with that elevated opportunity, you wonder if Anthony Simons is going to really be able to take that lead guard role. And, 23 points a game, 5.5 assists. He certainly has the tools to become that. It's just, of course, they kind of had to take Scoot Henderson when they did. So now they kind of have the same issue where it's Scoot Henderson, Anthony Simons. And that's not even mentioning the fact that they have Shaedon Sharpe, who they drafted last year. So, yeah, that's 3 guards that they have. And they could run into some similar issues that they did in the Dame CJ era, where they just had too many guards and not enough players around those guards. Jeremy Grant, he just signed that 5-year contract, the big reason why they didn't trade him at the deadline either. So they could, he could be around for a few more years, but it remains to be seen whether he's going to be part of the next great Blazers team. And then DeAndre Ayton, whom they acquired in the Damian Lillard trade with Phoenix, he's got potential as well. He's kind of struggled a little bit in his start, but last night against the Raptors had one of his best games as a Blazer, arguably his best game as a Blazer, 30-19, and they won the game in overtime. So having Ayton back was big for them, and if he plays like he did last night, then you're starting to see some potential signs that the Blazers can rebuild this and move this around. But there's a good chance that the pieces that will make the Blazers great again are not even on the roster right now.
And that's the point of being a rebuilding team at the same time, is, developing young guys, flipping those young guys for maybe guys a few years older that fit better with what you're trying to do. But that's what led me to ask the question, was like Cronin was under Olshey in the front office, if I remember correctly, kind of got elevated up. So there's differences in the way you approach things, but there's also like lived experiences that you can kind of draw on there from the CJ and Dame era. And then you look at the way this team is now, and I remember reading some reports earlier this season that Ayton's kind of attitude wasn't where you wanted it to be, like his coachability wasn't really where people were hoping it would be. You start to draw a few similarities with Nurkic, not in terms of off court, but on court, just, really talented guy, but sometimes it just isn't giving you that 100% on both sides of the floor. And then you're like, shit, I can see a lot of similarities between both sides. Obviously, then you've got Rob Williams out injured. As you said, you've got Shaedon Sharpe coming off the bench. You've got Reef. You've got Kamara. Is it, how do I say that guy's name? I always forget.
Toumani Kamara, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of young guys there that you can develop and you can flip, but it's not going to be this season. It's probably 2 or 3 years down the line. And then you coming up against teams like, you have a good game against Toronto. So, Toronto are kind of in a similar spot to you. They've just got rid of their best players. The only difference is they kind of brought in young veterans, as I like to call them, guys 2, 3, 4 years into the league that have already started developing. So they're a beat ahead of you in terms of just developmental experience. But now you're coming into a game against arguably the best team in the league, top 2 team in the league, if you want to put Denver in that same category, which is more than fair. How are you feeling coming into that game? Like, obviously you're not coming in thinking it's going to be a blowout for Portland, but there's always a learning curve that you can kind of pick up on.
Yeah, the Blazers will not win this game. I will put that right here, but I do think they can make it. I do think they can make it competitive.
Yeah, for sure.
With they're coming off of a big win, they can take that energy and kind of move forward. But like you mentioned, Adam, the Toronto Raptors are are not the Boston Celtics. So honestly, in this game, it's all about just competing and keeping it close, keeping it competitive throughout, and then in the fourth quarter, hopefully have either a lead that you can hold or a deficit that you can maintain and try to make a move in the last couple of minutes. But yeah, DeAndre Ayton's going to be big in this game. In that matchup with Porzingis, like if he's able to kind of match Porzingis, like and keep him contained. I feel like the Celtics, from the limited amount of Celtics I've watched this year, Porzingis is like a big X factor. And if Porzingis is hot, it's hard for the Celtics to lose. And usually when he's not on his A game, that's when the Celtics are the most vulnerable. So I feel like that matchup is the most important. And then kind of what you mentioned about Ayton earlier, he was traded right before training camp. And I feel like that can do a lot to you because he basically had to go right into the season with a brand new team, a brand new system. He'd never played anywhere else other than Phoenix in his career. And so, yeah, maybe a bit of a slow start for him and, the attitude problems. I mean, I don't necessarily want to dismiss them completely, but I also want to take the context of it as well, which is he was traded very abruptly. Not that he wasn't like expecting it, because he had been on the trade block for a very long time, ever since he, signed the match the offer sheet with the Suns in free agency. So I don't want to like dismiss them completely, but I wonder what will happen with Ayton when he has a full year, full off season in Portland. And also the chances of Chauncey Billups being the coach beyond this season, it's not, 100%. Like there's a chance the Blazers may move on from Chauncey at the end of the season, just because in 3 seasons he really hasn't moved the needle a whole lot. And granted, this season, he hasn't had the best tools to work with. But he also, there maybe is the opportunity to bring in a new voice, and maybe that will change some things in Portland. They may give him one more season as well, but if the Blazers are like this a year from now, with like 30 games under 500, close to what they are now, I can't imagine Chauncey would be the coach this time next year if the Blazers are still in the same situation.
So that kind of brings, you've kind of answered the next question I had, was just how the coaching kind of goes, like what type of systems they're running, how you're feeling defensively, offensively, because you can always like contextualize where a team is based on talent, but then you can also look at it from, well, is that talent being put in an area to thrive, right? We see teams overperform their expectations all the time. So what is it that you're not kind of feeling with Chauncey right now? Is it the offense? Is it the defense? Or is it kind of just everything?
It's, the thing with Chauncey is ideally, like on paper, Chauncey is a perfect coach for this team almost, a team that is trying to build off of point guards. Chauncey's about to be a Hall of Fame point guard. So that's ideally, like, that's exactly the kind of guy you want for a team like this. But I just feel as if, the offense has obviously struggled. But at the same time, it's like the team, like that's why I'm like kind of okay that Chauncey gets another year, because if you look at the team that he has this year, it's a very different group than he had last year. Most of the guys that were playing in this Raptors game, because the Blazers as like at full strength is one of the bottom 5-10 teams in the league, but they're not at full strength right now. Like they are playing without Jeremy Grant, they're playing without Brogdon, they're playing without they were playing without Scoot Henderson up until last night when he returned from his injury. So most of these guys, Henderson, Ryan Rupert, Duop Reef, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Murray, Delano Banton, who the Blazers acquired from the Celtics. Most of these guys were not on the team last year. I think Anthony Simon's the only one, and Matisse Thybulle, who came in mid-season last year, were the only players that played in the Raptors game that were on the team a year ago. So he's had to really start from scratch this year. I mean, the
Yeah.
2 seasons he had with Dame, where they underperformed, is more kind of what leads me to believe that he isn't the right coach for this team. But that being said, you can't necessarily look at the other 2 years and this year as the same thing. You have to give him some handicap, because he is handicapped with this roster, and the expectations for this team, it's not where it was a year ago. So having him, if Chauncey gets a full off season with this group and he's able to, figure things out with some of these younger players, maybe he gets another season, but I'm not too confident that the results will flip right away, especially considering what this draft looks like. There's not really like a true game changer for the Blazers that they can go out and get. So I just feel like with Chauncey, like it's not that he's doing a bad job, but he's not doing a good enough job to make me feel like he is the coach for the next Blazers playoff team.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, sometimes you just need that bridge guy, right? That's going to develop the one or two guys that you need before you flip him
Exactly.
and then go for. And then I think and first of all, I need to apologize to Banton, because I said this that the Blazers had 2 Celtics. It's 3, obviously, with Banton. I completely forgot he went there. He had a 30-point game the other day, right?
He did, and he had career high for him on Friday against the Rockets, and then 25 against the Raptors on Saturday. So
he's going off.
He's been given like a true opportunity. Shaedon Sharp's been injured, so that has opened up a spot in the starting lineup for Banton, and he's taken advantage. 6 straight games of double digits scoring. The 30 points was a career high. And I believe it was like 24 was his previous career high. And he had that. He broke that again on Saturday. So he's been given an opportunity as well to kind of, showcase his skills, something he wasn't able to do with a contender like Boston. I think, and look, if Saturday was any indication, playing against a former team of his, I could see him have that same kind of energy when he plays the Celtics on Monday. So I think Banton's probably like the player to watch in this game for the Blazers, maybe your X-Factor if you want to call it that. And he's been kind of like the main catalyst for scoring with all of these different guards out. So watch out for Banton.
See, I'd like to see Banton play well, just because, as you said, he didn't really get a chance with Boston this year. He played hard when he did. I always liked the way he could get to wherever he wanted to on the floor, just in terms of court navigation. The scoring was very questionable for me. Now, I know that we said we'd keep it to 15, 20 minutes. So I just want to end with this. We're nearly at the end of the season. We're down to the last quarter of it, if not less.
Mm-hmm.
So you've pretty much got a good feel for who Scoot Henderson is as a rookie, where he's at in terms of level, where his kind of floor projects to be in a few years' time. How confident are you that you're looking at the franchise cornerstone guard? Obviously, you mentioned how Simons might be that guy, but just in terms of Henderson's overall trajectory right now.
Scoot has this. How do I say it? It's like, we've seen what he is as a rookie, and while it isn't like in redrafts this summer, he's probably not going number 3. He may not even go in the top 5. He hasn't necessarily lived up to the hype. He's Victor Wembanyama's draft class buddy, and they're always going to be linked. And as we've seen, Wemby is a little bit further along than where Scoot is. I mean, obviously, when you're 7'4" and have the ability to block 5 shots a game, that's gonna put you ahead of the pack a little bit. But with Scoot, he struggled in terms of shooting, and that's been arguably the biggest hurdle for him. He's only shot about 37% from the field and 30% from 3. And obviously, as a lead guard for your team, it's not going to cut it. But he has the mindset of a franchise guard. And that to me is more that to me leads me to believe that Scoot can be the guy, because he has the mindset to be someone like that. He's gonna, he had the summer with Dame. He'll have another summer, and he's gonna be training with some of the top players in the league. And I do believe that he has the willingness and the desire to be great. And to me, that is enough for me to still feel like Scoot is gonna be okay. Obviously, if we're talking the same conversation a year from now and we still haven't seen a whole lot of growth, and Anthony Simons is on the trajectory that he is, that might change some things. But with Scoot, the jury's not out on him yet, and it'd be silly to dismiss him, just 44 games in his career.
That's fair. I think that, it's always hard when you're looking at like Miller's having a really good few months in terms of like proving himself and breaking out a little bit. As you said, Wemby's unfair. I try not to even use him as a comparison, because if you're talking about Wemby, you're basically talking about somebody that came into the league as an all-star already. It's just, it's a bit sucky. The only time I want to kind of compare Wemby is if I'm talking about Chet. But Henderson's definitely that question mark, right? Because for me, I'm looking at him the same way I'm looking at Brandon Miller and trying to see who's having like the bigger impact, whose ceiling's higher there. That's kind of the two I'm comparing more. But just to round this all off, I know that you've said that you're not expecting the Blazers to win, but I like everybody to kind of end the show with a prediction. So where you at?
Celtics by 60. Nah,
I mean, they did the Warriors by nearly 50 the other day. It's not a stretch.
How about Celtics by 16? Maybe that sounds a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not a stretch to go 60 after what they did to Golden State this time last week.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah,
who knows?
We'll go 116-100 just to have a round number. How about that?
Sounds good. And just so everyone knows, where can they find you if they want to check out your work? Because you cover two different teams.
Yeah, I cover two different teams, but I cover, honestly, it's probably beyond that. If there's a team, I'm probably covering it as a freelance writer. That's kind of how it goes in the world of sports. But if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at Jeremy Brener. That's JeremyBrener.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much for jumping on. And I feel you on the freelance sports writing thing. I try only focus on like 3-4 teams at a time. Just because you can't watch enough games, otherwise. How
lucky are you?
I know. It's just, dude. I find it so hard to write about a team when I'm trying to be as thoughtful as possible, but I haven't seen enough of their games to provide that thoughtfulness. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's a quality versus quantity thing. I feel like with me, I try to add as much quality to my work as possible, but obviously I'm trying to hit quantity as well. But
yeah,
what you do with the Celtics, you got real strong quality with the Celtics. So keep doing what you're doing, and I hope I can do the same and add a little bit more quality in my work.
Man, I do the quantity thing on the side too, man. I know exactly how you feel. Right, we're going to let you out of here with some Get This High, and everybody make sure you're tuning into the post game with Will and Greg later today. If you're not already, hit that subscribe button. Go down into the description, follow the Celtics Chronicles so you can get newsletters on Celtics updates sent straight to your inbox, and we'll catch you later. Peace.
I lose my mind. It don't take much no more until I hit the floor. Every time I hit this high, it's you I find. It don't take much no more until I'm at your door.
You cut me to my core, baby. What can I say? You got me on the floor, I came to play. I know I shouldn't, but you seem to take my pain away. And every time I score, Jason Tatum fade away. I close my eyes and I'm floating in your river.